In Sydney, there are many distinct differences between the East and the West. Sydney's West has a far more diverse population spread, with 48% of people born overseas in Blacktown in comparison to 38% in Double Bay, Sydney's East. Another major difference between Sydney's East and West is the support of the LGBT plus community. The seat of McMahon, located in Western Sydney, recorded only 35% of voters vote yes during the plebiscite, in comparison to Kingsford Smith in the eastern suburbs, which had one of the highest yes votes in New South Wales of 64%. Adash Prasad, a queer youth person living in Western Sydney, explained the difficulty of growing up in a religious family where they do not accept their sexuality.
I think there's been a lot of different reactions from different parts of my family. One of my brothers and a lot of my cousins are quite accepting while not understanding. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're taken for being this part of my family and I don't understand your sexuality and gender identity, but I'll accept it because that's fine. The more important part of my community and my family, like my parents, haven't been quite great with it. I was actually outed by one of my brothers to my parents. That didn't turn out very well.
Gay conversion therapy is the pseudoscientific practice of attempting to change an individual's sexual orientation from homosexual to heterosexual using psychological or spiritual intervention. Prasad continues to explain the grueling treatment that undergoes during a conversion therapy session and the continual effect this has on them.
What it feels like is going to a counseling session. My first session was quite intimidating, actually, because it was usually these happen at night. Usually he comes over to my place and I don't know his name, or I do know his name, I don't know his full name. He identifies as John and I know him just as John, and we sit in like our living room with most of the lights except for one light on, and it's a talk for the most part. In our first session I couldn't see what he was doing, but now looking back at it, I can see that his whole point was to try to get into my head in an emotional way. And so we spoke about things, and every like 5 minutes his emotion would change about how he was trying to do this. So he started off being really kind and really compassionate, and then he went to anger, and then he had like 5 minutes of being angry at me, and then 5 minutes of being sad at me, and like changing his emotions up and seeing which ones I reacted to the most. And I think that's kind of how he has taken on trying to speak to me now. So every time he wants to elicit a reaction from me, he'll know what emotions hit where. So usually when we talk or we do things, if he wants a reaction from me, he will pick up an emotion that he noticed in the first session I reacted to. A lot of it is like he's tapping into my already internalized homophobia. I have times where I'm like, oh, I'm about to go talk to a guy, and then I'm like, oh shit, this is not okay. And I realize that I've been doing that actually more since going to conversion therapy. I used to be quite a lot more okay with my sexuality and my expression of it, even the consequences of my expression of it. So like maybe not going up and talking to someone, but after sleeping with someone, after talking to someone, thinking about why that was so bad and why I shouldn't be doing that. I can definitely see it taking a toll in my practice of my queerness.
A Fairfax media investigation revealed last month the practice remains hidden in evangelical churches and ministries, discussed in the private offices of counselors and chaplains, or pushed out through online courses and mentors attempting to pray away the gay. Jessica has requested that a pseudonym name is given to protect her identity. She is a conversion therapist who has been practicing for 7 years, who sees no problem in what she is doing.
When a client comes to me experiencing same-sex attractions, it's because they understand something went wrong as they were developing. They understand that homosexuality is just not natural. So people come to me and I help lead them back to the correct path.
Although there is no scientific evidence to prove that conversion therapy works and numerous people have spoken to the harms of it, Jessica disagrees with this.
No, I have people come to me every day. And every day I help these people return to heterosexuality. If the conversion therapy didn't work, then I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't be doing this. People who say it's a violation of human rights don't know what they're talking about. People are choosing to get back on the right track of life and are choosing conversion therapy to do so.
The Australian federal government does not support conversion therapy, and the Labor Party supports banning the practice. However, it's time for these politicians to walk the walk.